Hey, if you're pregnant over 40, I have just the community for you. It's a private community away from Facebook where women just like you come together to meet and support one another during pregnancy. To sign up for the waitlist, go to over40fabulousandpregnant.com/waitlist and be the first to know when the membership is open. I can't wait to see you inside. Welcome to Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant. I am your host, Jamie Massey, and you're listening to episode 56. If you're looking for pregnancy stories of women over 40, you've come to the right place. Today on the show, we have Nisha sharing her pregnancy journey at 43. And in this episode, you'll learn that Nisha wasn't really sure she wanted to have kids, but when she made the decision, she committed to it. Now, she went through IVF. She had a low egg reserve, and quality was her challenge. She had 3 egg retrievals and only retrieved 7 eggs. Oh my gosh, I really felt for her because I only retrieved 1 egg the first time. So, oh my gosh. And she really just wanted to have 1 child and totally broke down and cried when she heard 2 heartbeats on the ultrasound. She refused to believe it. I'll let her tell you about that. And this is our first episode with twins. I'm so excited to share. I would love twins myself. So I'm really projecting this whole story that 1 embryo equals 2 babies. That sounds really exciting. And you know what? I have to apologize. Last episode, I told you we would be sharing Barb's story this week. I totally had it mixed up, and I am very sorry for that. Next week, I promise we are sharing Barb's story. Oh my gosh, it is not just a pregnancy story. Her book actually just came out, so it's going to be a really good one. You won't want to miss it. And I also forgot to mention last time about the episode on believing pregnancy is possible as our 1-year anniversary show. It's so interesting that it was a little more sadder than I intended it to be. But thank you for all the compliments. I really appreciate that. Maybe I'll do another episode in the future on thoughts and managing my mind. I would love to. And for my update, I had the lining of my uterus checked on Wednesday. I've been taking estradiol, is that how you say it? Whatever, for 2 weeks. The nurse said the lining had to be 6 millimeters in order to proceed with the transfer, and I was 9. Now, I had a gal that was training doing the transvaginal ultrasound. That was super fun. She couldn't even find one of my ovaries. But, my transfer is scheduled for Wednesday, October 25th, which, oh my gosh, it's so close. I'm scheduled again to get acupuncture and then go straight to the clinic for the transfer. I can tell you this time I'm much more relaxed. I feel like since I've already done this one time, I am just so much more relaxed. In my head, I'm really not making it as big a deal. And I've also posted this whole journey so far on the website. I kind of did that the first time around with the first transfer, but I've really been more intentional this time with transfer number 2, actually pointing out and recording the like data and the measurements, which I'm finding it's making me more confident. Like knowing the level of my vitamin D is making me really confident. So if you're interested in more details of everything, I will leave a link in the show notes if you're interested in some more details of my story. And with that, let's get into the show. Nisha, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And she is joining us from London, and she had twins almost 3 months ago tomorrow. And before we get started with your story, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Nisha. I'm from London. I turned 44 in July. So I was 43 when I was pregnant. Recent mum of twin girls. They were born at the end of May. Leela Rose and Shanti is their name. My journey was through IVF. So I've been through the IVF process, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners are going through or have been through as well. We tried naturally for about a year or so, and I think we're going to be going through the story itself. But I got married at the age of 41, and we tried, like I said, we tried naturally. And we just decided that we definitely wanted to have children, and started going through the initial consultations. And here I am a few years later with two baby girls, and I feel very, very blessed because I wasn't expecting twins at all, which I will tell you about as we start sort of talking through my journey. Professionally, I'm a sales trainer, and I'm currently on maternity leave, enjoying every minute of that time with my babies, but also really looking forward to kind of juggling my old life with my new life again, which will start again in November. But that kind of hopefully gives you a little bit more of a background in terms of who I am and what I've been up to over the last couple of years.
I love it. I think a lot of women can relate to your story of getting married in your early 40s. And now you take about a year to try, and then you're like, this needs to happen. That's happened to me. So I'm sure there's a lot of other women that can relate to your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, people ask me, have I always really wanted children? And I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't really know. I went through my 30s, and especially up until my late 30s, sort of thinking, maybe I want children, maybe I don't. I don't know if I meet someone. I met my partner then, sort of later on in life. And I just had to ask myself this one question, which kind of gave me the answer. And that question was, if at the age of 50, would I turn around to myself and say, I really regretted not giving it 100% and, trying for children? And my answer was quite firmly a yes, I would regret that. And that kind of made that decision for me. But it took a while to kind of decide whether or not I wanted to put my body through it, and whether I wanted to actually start the IVF process, or whether to just try naturally. And if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, life has its own path. And, would I be okay just kind of getting on with life and, traveling the world and doing other things and not sort of maybe not having children, or going through adoption, or, going through other avenues. So yeah, I think for me, it was quite hard making that decision in the first place. But once I did, we just kind of went for it.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything going on specifically that led you to IVF?
No, it was just kind of, we started the IVF process having done all the tests and having been recommended to go through that route if you wanted to have your own baby. So it was just recommended by the doctors. My egg count was very low, and my quality wasn't very great when I had the tests. My husband was absolutely fine. And so we said to ourselves, we'll try one round of IVF, and if it doesn't work, we'll then decide what we want to do next, whether it's to carry on with something else or whether to just give up completely. And I think that sums up my entire journey, in that we really took it step by step. We didn't sort of plan way into the future. We just kind of went with the flow and kind of just went by kind of every bit of advice that professionals told us at that time. So there wasn't anything massive that happened. It was just, for my age and my circumstances, it was just recommended generally to just try the IVF process.
Mm-hmm.
And even that kind of recommendation had a massive kind of, they were very realistic in their world. You know, it was very science-based. So from the beginning, everyone sort of said to us, you know, it's going to be a very, very low probability of this actually happening for you. So just be grounded. And, you know, and I can now stick my two fingers up at statistics, because I kind of smashed every statistic there is out there, especially having twins. But yeah, that was kind of how it started, how the IVF journey started.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And take us through your egg retrieval. You just had one egg retrieval?
I had 3.
Okay. And just to give our audience a little bit of background, you haven't been pregnant before any of this.
No.
Okay.
No. So we tried to conceive naturally for a year. We then had our initial consultation in February 2021, where I think by that summer in 2021, we got the results of my eggs being low, and I had to have my fallopian tubes checked and just all the usual kind of checks that you have to go through. And then we started the egg retrieval in November in 2021. And we did 3 cycles of egg retrievals, because I just wasn't producing enough for it to sort of be merged into an embryo, essentially. Mm-hmm. So we did 3 retrievals. And by the end of, I think it was around March, we had about 5 or 6 embryos.
Mm-hmm. How many eggs did you get from the 3 retrievals?
Yeah, it was seven eggs.
Okay.
Received. And then we ended up with 2 embryos, 2 good quality embryos. But in between that, I had fibroids. So I had to go through a fibroid operation, and everything was delayed because of that, which meant that we didn't actually do the implantation until September last year, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just to summarize, we had 7 eggs and we had 2 embryos.
Mm-hmm. And how was that process for you? How did you feel?
Very grounded, very kind of, I never let myself go down the kind of, what if this happens and what's my life going to be like without children? And we just didn't know, right? You kind of just, you listen to all of these stories about how you just need the one embryo for it to work. And I just focused on that type of mindset, but I also knew that it may not work, and that's okay. No matter what, I'm going to be okay. There are so many other different options that we can pursue. And I guess I never let myself make being a mum the be all and end all to my life. And I think by doing that, maybe I just had my barriers up, and maybe it was just me protecting myself. But I felt that it was important for me to do that, because throughout that whole process, you don't know what results are going to stop you in your track, and you don't know at what point they're going to say, you've got to just stop now because you don't have any embryos, or you didn't retrieve enough eggs to even make an embryo in the first place. So I guess for me, I was just very, very grounded, and I managed my emotions through it. And on those days where it was really tough, I didn't work. If I wanted to stay in bed, I stayed in bed. If I wanted to go on holiday, I went on holiday. Like, I wasn't traveling abroad because of all the medication, but I would go on a spa retreat or something. So I'd say I was kind to myself, and I was very in tune with how I felt. And it is an emotional roller coaster, but we were very grounded because we just didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Yeah. And I think it's important for us, it was just important to stay level-headed and grounded, even up until when the babies were born, because, over 40, if you met me, I'm 5 foot nothing. I'm, like carrying twins. There were so many things, like so many hurdles that we had to go through.
Yeah.
When you've got doctors telling you, oh, there's only like a 2% chance of this working, you kind of have to, on one hand, stay positive. On the other hand, you've just got to have your 2 feet on the ground and think, okay, well, maybe it's not going to happen. Let's just take it day by day.
Now, they gave you a 2% chance. Why was it so low?
I think it was 2% chance of us carrying twins. I think the chances of me falling pregnant through the IVF process with the number of eggs that I had and the quality of my eggs, et cetera, was still quite low. I think it was something ridiculous, like 10%. And, obviously the age, it drops every year by a ridiculous amount when you look at the statistics. But yeah, I think the 2% was when when we were talking about potentially having twins. And by the way, we only transferred one embryo. So they didn't even talk to us about like having twins. I asked them that question and they were like, there's no point even talking about it, guys, because it's never going to happen. Like there's literally a 2% chance of it happening to you guys. So you can imagine how shocked we were when we went for our first scan and there were 2 heartbeats.
And that is my dream. So I really want to project this dream onto my experience.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, you had your egg retrievals. You have 2 embryos or 3? I
had 2 in total at the end.
Okay.
I implanted the best one. And I didn't have a choice in terms of, do you want to implant 2 embryos or do you want to just implant the one? Because I think at the age of after 40, they don't recommend it. It's too risky for you. So I just had implanted the one, and then you've got to go through that waiting period and you've got to do that pregnancy check. And I think you've got to do the check twice from what I remember. And I was pregnant after the first embryo transfer. So I was very, very lucky. But again, you've got to wait 3 months and you've still got to kind of take it step by step and not really you never feel like you can completely be overjoyed in that moment. You're always cautious. You're always a bit like, oh, but we don't know yet. Let's take it day by day because anything can happen.
Yeah. So did you take a pregnancy test before the doctor called with the results? And what was that like?
Do you mean before the doctor called for the results to tell me I was pregnant?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you take the test and then you go for blood tests and then the doctors confirm 100% whether you're pregnant or not. So I had to inform them as to whether I was pregnant or not first initially before then having the blood tests and getting it.
They instructed you to take a pregnancy test at home.
Yes. Exactly.
Oh, so what was it like? How did you feel taking the home pregnancy test?
Well, it's really funny because I think I'm probably not the only one, but I think I bought a pack of 12 and I started doing the test like way early when they say, just don't do that because it could be, false and you don't want to get your hopes up, et cetera, et cetera. So I didn't even tell my husband at the time, but I was like, I think for a week before I was doing it every day just to see whether that line was going to be, thick and blue. And it was. And actually, I think I kind of fell pregnant quite early on and it showed quite early on, but I still wanted to keep to their kind of dates. So I kept it to myself. I told my husband, but he was just not willing to get excited at all until it was that date where they say, right, take the test and see if you're pregnant. And yeah, I did it on that. And actually, I remember now, I did it on that day and it wasn't as clear as the days before. So I was like, oh my God, am I not pregnant now? Like, what's going on? And I got really upset and really anxious. And I was like, why did I do this? Like, I shouldn't have got my hopes up. All this time I thought I was pregnant and I'm not. And I got myself into such a state by doing it. But then I think I did it again. And then I I got the blood test done and it was confirmed.
Mm-hmm. And how was that call with the doctor?
When they told us that we were pregnant, oh my God, like we were really excited. But again, it's really weird, isn't it? It's a feeling where you just you're excited, but at the same time, you're like, don't get too excited because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, there's still a really low chance of this working. And yeah, we've come really far considering, but let's just kind of take it a day at a time. And I think the people around us, like we'd only told my parents and his parents, and they're quite overly sort of cautious as well. So nobody got too excited at that point. We were all just kind of hoping and praying that it would stick, essentially. And, we'd have good news in 3 months' time. So, yeah, as much as we were excited, we were just as much kind of like, this doesn't really mean anything just yet. Let's just kind of calm down and, hope that this is the real thing.
At what point did you find out you had 2 heartbeats?
Our first scan. So I can't remember quite when. I think this first scan might have been at 6 weeks, 6-7 weeks, I think, is the first scan. And yeah, we went into I just said to my husband, look, we're going to be really blessed if we've got 1 heartbeat. Wouldn't that be great? But if it hasn't happened, if the baby's, if there is no heartbeat, it's okay as well. We've got another embryo. We'll just try again. We'll go on holiday. And so those are the conversations that we were having. And then, we met the sonographer and they kind of did the internal scan and she was like, yeah, the first heartbeat's great. And the second heartbeat's brilliant as well. And we were like, I was like, what? Like, what do you mean second heartbeat? And they were like, yeah, you've got two babies. And I just wouldn't believe her. I just kept saying to her, you've got it wrong. Like, how long have you been doing this for? Like, you've got to just keep checking, like check again and again. And there was like an assistant there as well. And she was like, no, I've checked, we've all checked. You've definitely got 2 strong heartbeats there. Yeah, you're carrying twins. And we just couldn't. I looked at my husband and I've never seen shock like that before. And I think he probably felt the same way. And I remember walking out of the room and sitting down and I cried my eyes out because for me, all these emotions started coming out onto the surface. And I kind of felt like, okay, I'm really excited. So I'm emotional because I just never thought that I could even be in this position. But at the same time, I turned around to him and I said, I'm only like 4 foot nothing, 5 foot nothing. And how am I going to carry twins? I don't even know if I can carry one baby. And what if it just doesn't work out for us? What if this is a bigger risk? Like, I don't know if I want twins. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'd rather have one than none. And he was like, look, we would have been blessed if we had one. Like, we could have walked away from here with nothing and no heartbeat. We're doubly blessed by having 2. Like, let's just absorb that for a minute and be happy and excited about it for a minute. And that's when I was like, okay. Like, and I just kind of like, it sunk in at that point. Well, we didn't sink in for a good 2 weeks afterwards, but I just kind of calmed down. And I remember that whole night, that evening, like the train journey, having dinner, we were just silent. We were like zombies. We were just looking at each other going, what? We just can't believe it. In complete shock.
Yeah. And you're like, do we celebrate? Or, I think you're just kind of guarded with your emotions at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been guarded from the beginning, right? Because like I said, we've been very, very grounded. And then to sort of hear that we've got twins and then, getting your head around that and kind of, again, just that's the theme, I guess, in this conversation. It's like you are excited, but you're also very kind of grounded and cautious at the same time. That's kind of how we continue to feel.
Mm-hmm.
It just became even more excited and even more grounded when, when you hear news like that.
Yeah. And what were your symptoms at this point at 6 weeks?
Nothing. I didn't have any symptoms whatsoever. I had no sickness. I was into my first trimester, and I had no morning sickness. I had no cravings. I was just normal. Like, you could ask my boss at the time, you would never have even been known that I was pregnant or that I was struggling. Like, people, like, they get really annoyed when they hear about it, because they're like, my God, like, my pregnancy, my first trimester, I was in bed and I was this and that. And all my friends were like, I can't believe, like, I hate you. Like, but I just carried on as normal. Like, luckily I work from home, but those few times when I have client meetings, etc., I wasn't feeling tired. When I was traveling, it was very, very normal. Didn't feel anything, even though it was an embryo transplant or implantation, should I say.
Mm-hmm. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, so am I. Like, I just can't believe that, I had that. And, like 2 months, I think it was within 2 months, I was told that I was pre-diabetic. So I then went and had the gestational diabetes checked, and it came back as positive. So I was told I had diabetes. And actually, that was like for me, I'm really glad that I got it, because, and I know that sounds crazy to hear, but if I hadn't had gestational diabetes, I wouldn't have changed my diet. And when you're pregnant and you're already getting fat every day, you think it's okay. You can have, this is the best excuse in the world to have as much chocolate and ice cream and crisps and crap in the world, right? Mm-hmm. So I would have just probably carried on, and God knows what would have happened to me in terms of my own health as well as the baby's health. But by having gestational diabetes, it was a massive transformation of mindset for me. And there was a reason for me to actually be really healthy and completely like turn my diet around. And I'm fairly healthy anyway, but I do like my carbs, and I do like my sweet. I have a bit of a sweet tooth. So to cut all of that out and to like really sort of change my diet, that I think that's helping me now after my pregnancy, because everyone's telling me that I look better now than I did before pregnant. And I genuinely think it's because I really looked after my health and what I was eating whilst I was pregnant.
Yeah, it gave you the discipline to change your diet. Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And what about exercise, and what else? Like, can you give us an example about your diet and what you changed and what you excluded?
I'm already vegetarian, but I'm not vegan. So I eat cheese and I eat eggs. And so for me, it was just about actually just trimming down the carbs completely, which was really hard because I love pizza and I love bread and I love pasta. So to just kind of get rid of it was never going to happen. And they tell you not to do that anyway, but just to limit it in terms of your portion. So portion control for me was really important. And I would make sure that I would have lots of vegetables and lots of protein, but then just a little bit of carbs to kind of add to a main meal, which was predominantly 2/3 of like protein and vegetables. And that's all I did. And, if I fancied a bit of chocolate, I would have a tiny bit of chocolate. If I wanted a spoon of cake, like I would have a spoon. And that helped. And I think a lot of people kind of feel like they can't have a spoon because they're just going to want a whole slice. But for me, just a spoon was enough. My palate had what it needed, and then I would just be like, I'm over it now, I'm good, I don't need the rest of it, sort of thing. So I was quite lucky in that way. You can't have caffeine anyway when you're pregnant, and I think I really missed that. I missed that a lot. But then I found like decaffeinated teas and things like that to kind of supplement it. But in terms of kind of what else, in terms of my diet, I just remember eating a lot of, I don't have any cholesterol problems. So I had a lot of cheese and I had eggs and I had a lot of greens, and I made a lot of homemade kind of, rather than processed food, I would make a lot of homemade meals. But yeah, that's pretty much it, really. Just whatever, it's what doctors kind of advise is what I did, but I tried to just make it as fun as possible with the recipes that I found online.
And what about your doctor? Now, you had your fertility doctor, but for your pregnancy, how did you choose your doctor for that care?
I moved from private care to the NHS once I fell pregnant. So my doctors were completely different once I was pregnant, and I was extremely lucky. I was lucky with private, but you kind of expect that because you're paying a lot of money for private care. But once I moved over to the NHS, I chose a hospital that was specialised in sort of premature birth and sort of had very good reputation with their intensive care units for premature babies, just because there was a risk that me carrying twins, they were going to be premature. So I did a lot of research around that. I have a nephew who was born there and he was 3 months premature. So it was a bit of a no-brainer to choose that specific hospital. And, even like, I don't know about the US, but in the UK, even when you're pregnant, you can choose any NHS hospital, even if it's like 3 hours away, it doesn't matter. It just means that with your appointments, you've got to travel a lot. So most people just choose ones that are local to you. So we had one it was only a 15-minute drive, but we specifically chose that hospital because of their NICU and their special baby care intensive unit and the reputation that it had. And then in terms of the doctors, they were phenomenal. Like I cannot tell you how amazing they were. I think I just lucked out. I think also because of the journey that I was on, because I'm over 40, because I was carrying twins, because I had gestational diabetes, because I was 4 foot, not 5 foot. I keep saying 4 foot nothing, 5 foot nothing. I think they just kind of put me on the high risk list anyway, and was just very much looked after because of that as well.
Yeah. What else did you like in your doctors?
Just how thorough they were and how many appointments they get. Like, so I had a scan. I think in a normal pregnancy, you have like 3 or 4 scans during your entire kind of pregnancy journey. Whereas with us, we had a scan every couple of weeks. And at one point, they were a little bit concerned that one twin was much smaller than the other twin. So they were a bit concerned about twin transfuser, TTTS, twin transfusion syndrome. I can't remember what the other T is for. And that's essentially where one twin is basically getting more nutrition than the other one. So they had to really monitor me a lot more closely, but the smaller twin caught up. So we were quite lucky in that respect. But yeah, I think it was just the fact that they just monitored me very, very regularly with scans, and they just didn't take any risks with me whatsoever.
And when did you find out that you had 2 girls? Was it in the transfer? Did you already know it was a girl?
No. So it was just how you would when you're normally pregnant. I can't quite remember. I think it's 16 weeks. I can't quite remember when it is that you can actually tell the gender. But it was, we were just told like anyone else, and we decided we wanted to know. We would have been really we would already known the names if they were girls. So we needed to know if they were boys, because we knew it would take ages for us to figure out whether, boys' names. Find boys' names a lot harder.
And so you found out with blood test or ultrasound?
Scan. Yeah, ultrasound scan.
And what was that experience like?
Oh, we were just overjoyed. My husband's got 2 sisters. So for him, it was like, I'm just used to having girls in the house. I obviously, neither of us cared as long as the babies were healthy. but deep down, we did kind of want girls. So being completely honest, we were overjoyed knowing that they were girls. And I think like you get past the stage, I think it's like 26, 27 weeks where you feel like you can now really celebrate, because even if they are premature, there's a lot of technology now that can, get you through it and get them through it. So once we passed that stage, it was nice to kind of start enjoying the whole thing and get excited about having the girls in our home.
Mm-hmm. And was there anything product-wise that helped you through pregnancy?
I had the usual sort of vitamin tablets that they prescribe you or they recommend for you to take. I had folic acid that they told me to take. I was fine with my iron, so I didn't need to have iron tablets. For me, it was just controlling the diabetes was the biggest thing for me. And I was on tablets and I was also on insulin as well. And I also had to carry on taking, like, I had to go on blood thinners as well, just to make sure that I didn't get any clots. But, injections for me it's nothing, right? When you go through the IVF process, you're used to injecting yourself and you're used to bruises coming up all over the place. So that part of it was fine. It wasn't, a horrendous experience. I'd already been through all of that.
Mm-hmm. And how did you prep for birth in babies?
I listened to a lot. I took a lot of advice in, and I think the biggest advice that I was given was you can prep till you're blue in the face, but nothing will ever there's no point you prepping to the point, because your experience is going to be your experience and it can change last minute. And that's exactly what happened to us. So I'd made the decision that I didn't want, and I was recommended by my doctors to not actually go for a natural birth. It was way too risky for me. So I already knew that I was going to have a planned cesarean. In terms of preparing for that, what can you prepare for? You've just got to make sure that you've got your hospital bags packed. And, for me, it was like, can I take a suitcase? Is it ridiculous for me to take a suitcase into a hospital? Until I saw actually many mothers to be do that. So I felt quite comfortable kind of packing for my baby and packing for me. And you're in hospital for a bit longer when you have a planned C-section as well. But other than that, like I didn't want to overthink it. I didn't want to just, get into too much detail. And I didn't actually even research on C-sections until quite later on, because I was too scared. If I'm honest with you, I was a little bit kind of, if I know too much, then I'm just going to freak out. So it's best that I just go with the flow with it. And that's what I did. And actually, the story of my birth, the birthing story, it's probably one that many, many mothers go through. But essentially, I was due, my due date was on a Tuesday, but the Thursday before I started having contractions. But I didn't know I was having contractions because I've had really heavy period pains before. So for me, it was just it just felt like heavy cramping. It didn't feel like contractions at all. So I phoned the hospital and they were like, oh, you've probably got your UTI, like call your GP. It's probably fine. Don't worry about it. And I was like, no, I think this is something different. Like, I think I've found a bit of spotting as well. Like, I need to come in. So they were like, well, there's going to be like a 3-4 hour wait, but if you want to come, then just come in. And I went to the hospital and I waited, and the doctors were, they took my blood pressure, they took blood tests, they saw everything was fine, and they were about to discharge me until the doctor was like, let's just do an internal scan just in case. So I had an internal scan. And at that point, he was like, you're not going anywhere. I can feel the baby's head. You're 3 centimeters dilated. So they kept me in overnight. And in the morning, they checked again and I was 4 centimeters. And I had 2 male doctors turn around to me and say, you're naturally really good at this. Do you want to just try giving birth naturally because you're already 4 centimeters dilated? And obviously my husband and I have never been through this before, right? So
Sure.
we were like, well, if it's this easy, yeah, if we'll get to 10 centimeters in an hour's time, let's just do it. Let's do it naturally. So they were like, yeah, it's fine. You'll be fine. You'll be great. And it's not that bad. So I was like, okay, it doesn't seem to be that bad so far. So I think I could do this naturally. Let's go for it. And so they prep me. We go into the birthing room. Nothing's happening. And so they say, well, we'll give you an epidural. And let's just prep you for, that moment when you start dilating and you're 7-8 centimeters. And hopefully that will happen in the next few hours. When you go through that epidural process, you kind of are really like, if you move a tiny bit, you can become paralyzed. And they tell you that from the beginning. So it's painful as it is. And then you're kind of really scared to move and you're going through pain. And it's just awful. It's such an awful experience. But you just, at the time, you just go with the flow and you just get on with it, right? You don't have a choice. Anyway, 12 hours later, nothing's happening. And they told me that I was distressed and the babies are in distress. And so they moved us straight into the theatre room and we had a C-section. And within 10 minutes, the babies were born and we had a playlist. And the whole room was like a party. We had like Stevie Wonder's Isn't She Lovely playing in the background and everyone was singing and dancing to it. And it was just a really, really beautiful experience. But I could have just gone straight into that experience. I didn't have to go through that whole, day and a half of like trying naturally beforehand. But yeah, that's kind of my story, which I wanted to share because, yeah, it kind of always makes people laugh when I tell them.
Yeah, it's funny that you went into labor naturally. And then it was usually you don't have those stories that it's C-section, natural, C-section. It's usually the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the fact that, they were just so like, they've been so like not taking any risks with you right from the beginning. And then that point in time where it's like, they were like, you just come in, we need to check you out. They were like, oh no, you're fine. Like, just go to the doctors. You've got a UTI, etc. So I'm really glad. I guess the lesson for this was just like, and everyone says this, and it's really annoying when people say this to you, but your body is telling you. Your body tells you when something's not right or when something's needs to happen. And I had to just listen to my body. And yeah, I was 4 centimeters dilated, and I had no idea. So.
So you're laying on the table. Walk us through those last moments when your babies came out.
Yeah. So my husband was with me at the time. It was all a bit of a blur. I was kind of quite high anyway, because I was just, give me the drugs, it's all good. I just want the babies to be okay, and I just kind of want to be okay. So I'm fine with whatever you want to give me. And the babies were born, like it literally, the doctors were so chilled out about the whole thing. It's like they've done it 1,000 times. They know what they're doing. They made me feel so comfortable. And the babies came out and I could hear them crying, and they were born 1 minute apart. So I knew that they were okay. But then I could feel a bit of tension in the background, and I could feel my husband go quite quiet. So I knew something wasn't quite right as well. They gave me skin to skin very quickly, and then they took the babies away from me very quickly. And I then later found out that their oxygen levels were decreasing quite quickly. So they had to put them, give them extra oxygen ASAP. So they rushed the babies into NICU straight away. And my husband went with them. And I was still kind of like on a high, just kind of thinking, oh, this is normal. They've just taken the baby, like, to clean the babies properly, and I'm sure everything's fine. So it didn't really register that actually, they had infection charges, they had a bit of jaundice, they weren't breathing properly. There was some sort of complications in the background, but they were telling me that everything was absolutely fine. So I was kind of like none the wiser, and they take you off into a recovery room, and my husband kind of went with the babies. And in the recovery room, I started bleeding through my wee quite excessively. And so they were very worried about that. And for a good 4 or 5 hours, they had to constantly monitor that because my kidneys had stopped working.
Whoa.
And again, they, I was still high on drugs, and I was just like, oh, I've just had skin to skin with my babies and they're absolutely fine, and forget about my bleeding. That will correct itself. And I just didn't know really what was going on. But you're just kind of like, you're on drugs, right? And you're kind of on this other level where you're not thinking straight. So you're going with the flow, and you're just kind of making up reality in your head when actually something completely different is happening in the background, but you have no idea what it is. Anyway, long story short, they had to take me in for a CT scan and blood tests and everything very, very quickly. And everything was clear. So they just couldn't figure out what was going on. And within like 7, 8 hours, the blood started decreasing. And apparently what had happened is the babies had squashed my kidneys. And so it was just taking a while to correct itself and to go back to normal, and for my body to just, produce the water properly and get it working properly after the birth. So so I was fine, and the babies were absolutely fine. They were, every single day they got better and better and better. But that was kind of the birthing story, and kind of what happened after the birth.
And when did you get to see your babies for the first time after your skin to skin?
The next morning around, so I gave birth at midnight, and it was probably about 8, 9 o'clock when they were like, and they would have told, like, if I'd wanted to go beforehand, I could have gone whenever. They were literally next door, like in the ward next door to me. But because I was sore and because I was delusional and on drugs and I was bleeding so much, they were more worried about me than they were the babies. And them telling me that actually reassured me, because for me, it was like, I will recover. I'll be fine as long as my babies are okay. And my husband was with them. So I was on my own, but I don't know what it is, but I just knew I'll be okay. I just knew I was feeling okay, right? So I don't know. Yeah, maybe it was just the drugs were helping me at the time. The thing that people don't tell you is when you have a C-section, as soon as you've had the C-section, you think that you're absolutely fine because you are so heavily medicated. You literally tell yourself, if this is your recovery, if this is how C-sections work, then I don't know what the big deal is. Why do people go on about how the recovery is so hard, etc., etc.? But what you don't realize is that the drugs wear off. And once the drugs wear off, like 24, 48 hours later, it is hard. Like, you've had major surgery. So one of the biggest advice that was given to me, and I will always give to anyone else that has to go through a C-section, is take the drugs. Keep having the drugs. Don't think after 24 hours you're going to be fine and you're on the route to recovery, because it was your birthing drugs that was keeping you going for 48 hours afterwards. Just keep taking whatever they give you, because if you don't, it's so much harder and it's really painful.
Mm-hmm. And how was taking the girls home? How was that experience?
Oh, it was just, they were in hospital actually for 10 days afterwards.
Okay, so you were already released.
So I was released 3 days later, but they allowed me to stay with the girls. They literally give you like a pull-up bed, which I couldn't even lay on because my back was killing me. And so I was sleeping on an armchair next to them. And I think at one point, within those 3 to 10 days, I cracked and was like, I can't take this anymore. And they forced me to go home to rest at home. But every night I was kind of, pretty much every night I was there with the babies. And actually the joy of taking them home was, one thing. But even before that, the one thing that I want to really kind of, talk about is how hard it is when you have newborns and you have no idea what to do, and how important it is to just really get that advice and get and learn. And for us, them being in NICU enabled me to actually get that one-on-one advice from 7-8 nurses and midwives that were on various shifts, and they gave me so much knowledge. I was in baby school for 7 days because they showed me how to breastfeed, they showed me how to just feed via the bottle, they showed me everything, how to get them to sleep, how to change nappies, everything, and I will always be grateful for that. And so by the time I got home, I felt a lot more confident than I would have if we'd just gone straight home.
Mm-hmm. And how was your breastfeeding experience?
So it was tough. I produced colostrum at the beginning, and after that, I just stopped putting pressure on myself. So my babies were only breastfed like as a top up for about 3-4 weeks after they were born. And then after that, I literally just gave up and just said to myself, I don't care if I can't breastfeed. I'm not putting myself through it with twins. I'm not going to give myself a hard time. I would rather they are fed, full stop.
Sure.
So they are healthy babies. Like they're doing extremely well weight wise. And that to me is much more important than putting that pressure on myself as a woman to actually to breastfeed them. I was happy that I was able to give them colostrum, and and if that's all I can give, then that's all I can give. I want them to see a happy mum. I don't want them to see a mum that's constantly stressed and anxious. And then I genuinely believe that they would have felt that if I carried on breastfeeding. So I'm a big advocate of go with the flow with it and don't put any pressure on yourself. And if that means you've got to stop breastfeeding to feed your babies, stop breastfeeding. It's okay. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Did you find it painful? Was that the challenge?
It was the time it took to breastfeed. It was my production level. I was just not producing enough at all to be able to feed them and give them the nutrition that they needed. It wasn't like using the machine was okay, but it was just tedious, and I just wasn't producing enough to be able to manage twins, essentially. I don't think I was producing enough to even manage if I had one baby.
Tomorrow you're 3 months postpartum. How have you been mentally these past 3 months?
So I think now I'm beginning to get into the rhythm of things.
Yeah. She has a very big smile on her face, even though you can't see. I love it.
It's just been so beautiful. Like we've been through a journey, right? We've been through IVF, and we never thought that we'd be able to have one. Even through the journey, we were like, let's not get too excited. We've got 2 healthy embryos. We don't know if one's even going to stick. So for us to now celebrate 3 months and having twins, I don't even think it's sunk in yet. And when you asked me that, I'm like, how's the last 3 months been? It's been absolutely incredible, because every day, even those tough days where I've had for 2 months, I'd had 2 hours sleep a night, I didn't complain once, because for me, it was like, there are mums out there who would die to be in my position. I don't have the right to of course I was tired. Of course I had my moments where I'm like, oh my God, this is really tough. But I've never complained, and I've always been so grateful. And I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, have been living like that since they were born. I can't. It's just been incredible. It really has. I feel like I was born to be a mum. I feel like I have purpose in my life. Even more purpose. I've always had purpose, and I feel like the last 3 months, every day I've woken up with this same smile, even with the lack of sleep, even with the vomit down my tops and the random outbursts and, the craziness that mumhood brings with newborns.
I love it. Is there anything else you want to share about your pregnancy or birth?
I guess in terms of my pregnancy and birth, I think just in terms of the IVF journey and the, being plus 40, I think it's just the kind of the importance of like having that hope, but also know that if it does happen, always be grateful, because there are so many women that have gone through what you've been through and it hasn't worked for them. And I think for me, it's kind of gratitude is the most important thing. And I think in terms of just kind of the emotional roller coaster that you're going to go on if you're going through the IVF process, mentally, physically, it tests your resilience for sure, but you will be okay. And for me, it was manageable, even though there were moments where it was really tough. And I think just telling myself I'll be okay no matter what really helped me through it. And knowing that it's okay to be excited, but it's just okay to also be very grounded is probably one of the key things that I remember from that process. And then, if you're blessed to be pregnant, enjoy the morning sickness if you have it. Enjoy every moment of it, because these are all just great things. You've worked really hard to even get to this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that everyone listening to this is blessed with my story and has a similar story to share. And I hope that, for me, this story gives you that hope, because there were many times where we weren't sure whether we wanted to go through IVF and whether we wanted to actually, go through the emotional stress of it all. But listening to other stories similar to mine made me make that decision. And imagine if I hadn't, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So hopefully your listeners will get that hope as well. And just keep going with it and be kind to yourself, and listen to your instincts throughout everything.
And Nisha, you have one more embryo left. Tell us, do you have plans to have more kids in your 40s?
No.
Okay.
No. I have actually kept the embryo. It's in storage. I don't really know what to do with it. I think we've got to make a decision this time next year as to whether we want to carry on, want to keep the embryo or not. It feels weird getting rid of it, if I'm honest. And I'm not ready to kind of make that decision. But I had a health visitor actually come over the other day, and they said to me, they asked the same question. And I said the same thing, like, we're happy with being a family of 4. We feel like the fact that we've got this far is amazing. We're blessed, and we don't want any more children, being completely honest with you. And the health visitor turned around and said, well, it would be a shame to waste it, wouldn't it? And I just turned around to her and I just said to her, it's not like chocolate cake, it's a big decision sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's okay if we don't want more children.
That's right.
But that's kind of, we're not planning to use the other embryo.
Okay. And what has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
Biggest challenge, I think constantly preparing yourself either way. Mm-hmm. And you tell yourself like stories, right? You make up stories in your head, like, I'm an older mum, like, who has kids when they're 40? Like, when I'm 80, they're going to be whatever age. Like, am I going to keep up with them? My husband's actually 11 years younger than me. So it's like, am I going to have to keep up with him and the babies? It's like you make up all this stuff in your head. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge, just kind of quiet the mind. Like, your mind can go on overdrive constantly. And I think for me, meditation really helped, and kind of taking that time out to reflect, going on walks, being very mindful of how I felt in that present moment was really important to me, and being aware of and self-aware of those feelings. and the hardest bit was actually doing that, like actually consciously being present and consciously taking that time out to actually breathe and not spiral and go out of control with your thoughts.
Yeah, it's so easy to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is.
And is there anything you recommend that would help prepare someone for pregnancy and birth in their 40s?
Be healthy physically, be healthy mentally, like work on yourself. I work on myself all the time. I've no way got it sussed out. Like, if anyone's got any like pointers, please, pass them over to me as well. I'm learning every single day for sure. Be grounded, but celebrate those small wins as well, because that's what keeps you going.
I love it. What advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant if you could go back?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'm not sure. It's a really hard one because I enjoyed every moment of it. So it's not like I was like an anxious pregnant person, just kind of, I was quite kind of mentally okay throughout my pregnancy. I knew that no matter what, I'll be fine. And so in that respect, I guess I wouldn't do anything differently. I don't think I would have given myself any, but I'm trying to think there must be something, right? There must be something that.
Maybe. If not,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. But I feel like there's got to be something. I think maybe just go with the flow a little bit more, just like, and don't think too. I think one thing that I did do was kind of think a little bit into the future too much. Like, I would fast forward like 2 years from now and be like, oh my God, I need to like sort all of this stuff out for our, if we're going to have babies. Like, what am I going to do with my career? What am I going to do with like, having a bigger house and all of that? And I think it's just be a little bit more, I guess it would be just be a little bit more present.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. And Nisha, given your experience with IVF and twins, what do you say to that woman in her 40s trying to have a baby?
If it's something you really want, don't give up hope. But again, be grounded, because not everyone is lucky enough for their dreams to come true. Like, we've got to be realistic with the situation, but also just know that you're going to be okay no matter what. I think, like, it can be all encompassing. It can overtake your world. It can really, like, you can live and breathe it, and you will go through moments in life where you will be living and breathing, and that you won't see the wood through the trees. You will not think clearly. Everything, you become obsessed with this, with the idea of being pregnant and having babies. And I totally get that. I went through waves of that. But I think, like, always telling yourself that no matter what, you will be okay is really important, and you're only human. And the other thing is also, you can put 100% into everything. You can try all the vitamins, you can go through IVF, but there is an element of luck. There is an element that you cannot control, and you have to let go of that as well. And I think looking back now, and you asked me this question earlier, what would I say to myself if I was pregnant again? It would be just let go more. Like, don't hold on to the idea of it as much as I did. Like, be okay with, I'll be okay. And remember that you can only control so much. Like, let go as well of the outcomes, because you can only try. It's like, I guess it's like, when you're studying for an exam, right? Like, you can study really hard, but then that's all you can do. The rest is up to whatever's going to happen is going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, yeah, that's kind of what I would probably say to myself a lot more, and probably those who are kind of trying for babies and want twins. And I'm a great example of it happening, and it can happen to you guys as well. And I really, really hope it does. But I also remember me saying to myself, if it doesn't happen, I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be okay.
I love that. And where can we connect with you online?
So I am on Insta. I'm fairly new to Insta, by the way, but I'm loving it. And actually, I started posting because I wanted to create a diary for my babies so that when they're older, they can look back and they can see all the Insta posts. So you can see me and my family on my Insta handle, which is the Vyas Josephs. Vyas is my surname, Vyas, and Josephs is my husband's surname. So the Vyas Josephs is where you can find me. I hope to connect with all of you guys, and yeah, you can. And I'm very, very open. I'm very you'll see on my reels the bad days, the good days, the ugly days, every day, like every emotion you'll see on my reels. So yeah, connect. And if you've got any questions, if anyone's got any questions about IVF, about pregnancy, just feel free to DM me. I'm more than happy to share my story.
Perfect. I love your story. Nisha, thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And good luck, everyone.
And thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.